Hey friends, Elizabeth here from Plant-Based Bride, and welcome back to Plantmas Day 5. In today's video, I'm really excited to be doing a thorough overview and pen test of the brand new official bullet journal notebook. The first official bullet journal notebook was launched back in 2014 via Kickstarter, and just this month, Bullet Journal released a new and updated version of that original notebook. This notebook is built from the ground up for bullet journaling and is based on thousands of pieces of community feedback. I was sent both colors of this notebook, both the black and the blush pink, and I already did a giveaway on my Instagram on launch day for the blush pink notebook. And in this video, after I show you all of the features and the pen test, I'm going to be doing a giveaway for the black bullet journal notebook. So hang out till the end of this video if you want to enter to win this notebook. Keep in mind that I am giving away this notebook that I'm using in this video, which means that I have opened it up and I've written on the last page for the pen test. So if you're not okay with winning a notebook with a pen test in it, then this might not be the giveaway for you. But if you don't mind, then keep watching and make sure to enter to win. This notebook is absolutely packed with features, so I really hope I don't miss any. If I do, I'll put them in the description box. But this notebook is a standard A5 size notebook with a vegan leather cover. It has the official bullet journal logo embossed on the front and a little lightning rod embossed on the bottom of the spine. It comes wrapped up in this little sleeve that has a bunch of the features listed on it, so you can see some of them for yourself here. This notebook was made by Leuchtturm 1917. I've actually never used their notebooks, so this was my first introduction to Leuchtturm. I hope I'm saying the name correctly, but I know that they are a very popular notebook brand in the bullet journaling community, and they are the official partner of the bullet journal system. As I mentioned, this notebook has been built from the ground up, specifically for bullet journaling. It has 120 GSM ink-proof paper, which they claim to be art and fountain pen friendly, which we shall see during the pen test. The notebook comes with 206 numbered pages that lie flat with a smart dot grid. There's a back pocket and a pocket bujo guide, 3 bookmarks, and the paper itself is sustainably sourced. When you open up the notebook, you will see one of my favorite things about this notebook, which is that the inner cover has been turned into a grid spacing spread, or as they call it, the grid guide. I think this is such a smart idea, as y'all could probably guess, because for my last couple setups, I've been adding spreads into my inner cover, and in my 2021 bullet journal setup, which I filmed shortly before getting this notebook, I put a grid spacing cheat sheet on the inner cover, only to open this package and see that me and Ryder were on the same wavelength, which I mean, considering Ryder Carroll is the creator of this system, that makes me feel very validated. Both the blush notebook and the black notebook have this rose gold accent, which I think is so pretty, but I do find it especially striking on the black paper just because that contrast is so strong. I also love that there's the little Venn diagram of what and why. The sleeve explains some of the features, so it talks about how to use the grid guide. It also talks about the page dividers, which we shall see once we start flipping through the pages. When you flip to the back, you'll see the sticker sheet that comes with the notebook, so you get some basic days of the week, months of the year, and numbers, as well as some fun rose gold dots and lightning bolts. Super cute. There's a little QR code printed on the back inner cover that you can scan to learn more about the system, which makes this an amazing gift for someone who's just starting their first bullet journal, because if they're not really sure how to use the system, they have that QR code in their notebook forever, so they can scan it whenever they need a little bit of a refresher on how to use the system. They also get this pocket guide in the back, which they can keep in the back pocket if they like, which goes through a lot of the basics of the system. Again, this makes it an amazing gift for someone who's new to bullet journaling. This is really sort of an all-in-one thing that you can give someone, and you know they'll get started on the right foot because they have all the information they need. So now that we've looked at the features that are on the inner covers, let's start flipping through the pages and see what we've got. The first page has an area to write your name and contact information, and when you flip the page, there's the key. The key has already been filled in for the first few bullets using the original bullets that Ryder uses. The next page is an intentions page, which is just a dot grid page with intentions written at the top. The next 4 pages are the index, again, just dot grid pages, but they do say index at the top of each page. The next 4 pages are dot grid pages that say future log at the top, intended to be used as a future log. And after those introductory pages, we're into just the regular dot grid. So now that we're on the regular dot grid pages, let's talk about these for a second because they are really unique. So there is the regular 5mm dot grid, as most of us have come to expect, but these pages are a little different. These pages do have a larger margin than you usually see, which I think is interesting. I think the intention is that you can use the margin space to write a header. There are also markers on the bottom and inside of each page to help you determine the center of the page and the thirds. And this is really cool. They're very subtle and very small, just 3 little dots on the thirds and 2 little dots on the halfway point. Obviously, you have that grid guide on the inner cover that you can flip to, but because you have these, it means you can split a page in half, vertically or horizontally, or in thirds, vertically, horizontally, or in 4 equal spaces or 9 equal spaces very, very easily because those divisions are marked on every single page. Again, I think this is genius. This is a really smart idea, and I think this will be really helpful for a lot of people. They've also added a little bullet point under the page number on each page so that you can cross off a page once you're done with it and you no longer need to reference back. Or you could use it to add a star to prioritize that page. Of course, you could use these however you see fit. But again, I think that's a really interesting feature that they've added in here that could be really useful in actually using this notebook day to day. As I mentioned, we have the 3 bookmarks. I love more bookmarks. The more bookmarks, the better. I'm always finding that I want to mark a bunch of different pages to refer to quickly, and it's much easier to just use a bookmark instead of referring to the index and finding the page every single time. This paper is definitely on the creamier side, so keep that in mind. I know some people much prefer a cream paper to a bright white paper. So now that we've talked through all the features, it is time for the pen test. And this is really important for a lot of people, me included. The kind of paper that a notebook has can make or break its usability for a lot of us. And all of us have different preferences when it comes to paper. So what I like in paper may be the complete opposite to what you like in your paper. And that's why a pen test is so helpful. It helps to give us more of an objective look at what a paper is good for and what it isn't. And then we can all decide individually on our own what paper fits our needs best. This paper feels pretty silky to the touch. Unfortunately, I've never used Leuchtturm notebooks before, so I am unfamiliar with their paper. I don't know if their paper always has more of a silky, smooth quality to it, but I know for some people having a rougher paper is a big no-no. So if that's important to you, I wanted to include that the paper is very smooth. I found a great use for the wider margins here setting up my pen test page. I realized that the margin is perfectly placed to be able to make a nice border around a page that is evenly spaced from all sides. So that is definitely a plus. I just used my stamp set to add the header at the top, pen test. I wanted to see how this black permanent ink would hold up on the paper, as well as all the different pens and paints and things that I'm going to test going forward. So I'm starting with some fine liners. As you'll know, I use my Secura microns all the time. So I wanted to test my finest point Secura micron, which is the 003, as well as my thickest nib, which is the Secura micron 08. I also wanted to test my day-to-day use pen, which is my Pentel Hybrid Technica 03, which is a gel pen. In this same vein, I decided to test another gel pen. This is the Bic Gelocity 07. And then I went ahead and tested a Tombow dual brush pen, a mild liner, a Copic sketch marker, an Ecoline brush pen, a Sharpie permanent marker, a Uni Posca paint pen, an Archer and Olive acrylograph, and then also a couple white pen and marker options. So I tested the white Archer and Olive acrylograph, the white Uni Posca paint pen, and the white Uniball Signo, which is a white gel pen. At this point, I wanted to do a smudge test just to see how this paper held up. So I decided I'd go back and test the first 4 pens for smudgeability on this paper, both a 1-second test and a 5-second test. The Secura Micron 003 had very little to no perceptible smudging. As you can see, when I did the same test with the Secura Micron 08, we got a huge amount of smudging because obviously it's a thicker nib, more ink comes out when you write with it, and so it takes longer to dry. As expected, when I wrote with even my finest gel pen, which is the Pentel Hybrid Technica, it did smudge after both 1 second and 5 seconds. Gel pens do tend to be wetter, so this is to be expected. And then for the Bic Gelocity, we had smudging again for both the 1 second and 5 seconds, again as expected. I personally tend to prefer a drier paper just because, as I've mentioned many times in the past, I am an impatient person and I don't like having to wait for pens to dry to keep on writing. And I also hate smudges. So for me personally, moving towards drier paper has been one of the best things I've ever done for my own peace of mind when it comes to bullet journaling. But I know some people are completely on the other end of the spectrum. They want a coated paper. They want things to take a really long time to dry down. They want to be able to blend on the page more easily, for example, with Tombow brush pens, and not worry about things drying and then starting to ball up or peel. And they don't mind the drawback of potential smudges or having to wait longer for things to dry. So again, this is completely subjective depending on what you like in paper. As I mentioned, this is 120 GSM paper, so it is a little lighter than what I'm used to. I do typically go for 160 GSM, but again, I know that a lot of people are using notebooks in the realm of 100 to 120 GSM. I wanted to try blending 2 acrylographs on the page just out of curiosity because I found that this paper was a little smoother than what I am typically used to, but I found the acrylographs blended about the same as they do on any uncoated paper that I'm used to. The next test I wanted to do was watercolor, and I wanted to do it the way that I do in all of my notebook or pen test videos, which is testing watercolor at 3 levels of wetness. So starting a little bit drier with more pigment, and then loading up the brush with more water, and then loading up the brush with even more water to see how the paper holds up. Obviously, this isn't as thorough a test as doing an entire watercolor painting on the paper, but I find this gives me a pretty good feel for how watercolor is going to react when I see how the paper holds up to increasing amounts of water. And the last thing I wanted to test was a fountain pen because they claim that this paper is fountain pen friendly, and I finally have my own fountain pen so I can test notebooks. This is something I've been talking about for a long time, and I finally got one. Thank you so much to Ferris Wheel Press, a Canadian company, who sent me one of their fountain pens and some of their inks. I am in love. They are so stunning. All their stuff is vegan, which we love. They are a great little company, so check them out. I'll link them down below. But they sent me a fountain pen, and I decided to test it out for the first time on this paper. My technique leaves something to be desired. I still need to get used to using a fountain pen, but I absolutely adore this color, which is Sparkling Champagne. And now it's time to look at the results. So let's flip the paper over and see what we can see. There is certainly quite a bit of ghosting going on, which is to be expected with a thinner paper weight. 120 GSM is pretty thin. The Copic sketch marker and the Sharpie both were on the verge of bleeding through, as we'd expect. Both of those are alcohol-based, which don't tend to do well on this kind of paper. So those were to be expected. The acrylographs and the Uni Posca pens definitely had a little bit of buckling of the page, especially my little swatch where I blended the acrylographs together. You can definitely see where they've been written by a little bit of waviness, buckling, warping of the page on the other side. And we see that same effect on the watercolor swatches. The areas where I applied the watercolor have a little bit of waviness or buckling, and it gets more pronounced as we move from the least amount of water to the most. The fountain pen had very little ghosting. Part of that is that I did use a lighter color ink, but it doesn't seem to have gotten anywhere close to bleeding, which is a great sign. Now, I would say that this paper held up about as well as I expected, considering it is 120 GSM. As I mentioned, I personally prefer a thicker page. I tend to go for 160 GSM. I don't love lighter weight paper for my own uses because I really dislike ghosting. I just find it very distracting. When I look at this pen test, it performed as expected. I think the paper held up quite well considering its GSM, but it definitely isn't what I prefer in a paper. I do love a thicker, drier paper for my own needs. Paper preferences are personal to each individual bullet journaler, so only you can determine if this paper is what you need. I think this paper is probably more than good enough for a lot of bullet journalers out there who aren't doing extensive painting in their notebooks or using a huge amount of different types of markers or trying to blend on the page. For a lot of people, that's just not part of their journey, and that's awesome. So for all those people, I think this notebook would be great. If you are more heavily on the art side of things, if you really want to be able to paint in your notebook, this might not be what you're going for. But then again, I do know some people who swear by Louis Vuitton notebooks and that's all they use, and they watercolor in their notebook all day, every day, and they love it. So again, it just really is such a personal thing that it's hard for me to say one way or the other whether this would work for you. All that being said, I'm really impressed by this notebook. I think it includes so many really clever features that will actually be incredibly useful in the day-to-day use of the notebook, which is great. On top of that, they are just really aesthetically pleasing pleasing. They're very minimal, but attractive. I love the rose gold accents. As y'all know, I am a fan of gold. I love the metallic element. It adds a little bit of classy shininess to the situation, which I appreciate. But even though it's not the kind of notebook that I would maybe gravitate towards, I think it is such a perfect beginner's bullet journal, and I would highly recommend it for that purpose. So I really hope this video was helpful and that I covered all the features. Again, if there's anything I missed, I will add it to the description box. And now that I've covered literally anything I could think of to cover about this notebook, it is time for today's giveaway, which is for this black bullet journal notebook that I tested out in this video. If you want to enter to win this notebook, feel free. It is open internationally, no matter where you live. If you win, I will ship it to you. And check out the description box for the rules and how to enter. Good luck. Thank you to Bullet Journal for gifting me these 2 notebooks. This was very exciting for me. And I had a really good time exploring all the fun features and little extra goodies tucked in this notebook. And I'm excited for one of you to win this notebook. So that's it. I'm going to go. I have started to ramble. I hope you enjoyed Plantmas Day 5, and I will see you really soon tomorrow for Plantmas Day 6. Bye, friends. Thank you so much to my patrons for their support. Extra special thanks to our newest patrons, Katie, Isabel, Amy, Lottie, another Katie, Alicia, Ariescapes, Megan, Anna, Marie, Xanth, Sylvia, Berta, Alana, Anne, Sasha, Elizabeth, Alex, and Emily. Welcome all of you to the squad. We are so excited to have you. If you at home want to join the squad, feel free. There's a link in the card and in the description box down below. And if you're looking for something else to watch, check out Plantmas Days 1 through 4.